Hi, I'm Ben Jacobs, and you're watching The Window on talkSPORT. Lots to get through as we continue our daily transfer news show. And we begin with Hugo Ekitike, where there is an agreement in principle between Liverpool and Frankfurt. This one was largely done over the weekend, but finalised in the last few hours. £69 million up front, plus 10 million in add-ons. And Ekitike has agreed a 6-year deal. He's expected to undergo his medical on Tuesday. And then towards the latter part of the week, he'll join Liverpool for their Asia tour. They've got a game on Saturday. It's unclear yet whether or not it'll be turned around quick enough in order for him to feature in that game. And Ekitike was a striker that scored very highly in Liverpool's data around about 6 months ago when they started to understand who their next number 9 might be, in light of the fact that Darwin Núñez is expected to still depart. João Pedro was another name looked at. And of course, Alexander Isak. And a lot of Liverpool fans now ask, could the impossible happen and Isak join in addition to Ekitike? Well, I would say it's not impossible, but Ekitike has by no means been signed as just a backup. Liverpool appreciate his versatility and think that he can be very potent in the Premier League. And as a consequence, they decide to go all in on Ekitike, even if maybe the Isak saga come the end of the window will still show some potential to take a crack at. And that will obviously depend on Newcastle United now, and if perhaps they're going to be able to tie Isak down to a new contract. One thing's for sure, though, Liverpool still appreciate Isak either way. So if they can't get him this window, then no doubt they'll be back in the future. And then regarding Liverpool and attackers, whether they even bring in another number 9 or a wide attacker will largely depend on Luis Diaz. And Liverpool started the window with quite a clear stance to both Barcelona and Bayern Munich, saying Diaz is not for sale. And subsequently, Barca came first and the answer was still no. And then a few days ago, Bayern made a bid of 67.5 million euros. And again, it was immediately turned down out of hand. And part of the reason why is because Liverpool's data suggests that Diaz can still play a role next season and add to the tally of 13 that he got when Liverpool won the Premier League. But the twist is the fact that Diaz wants to leave. He's open to Bayern Munich, and Bayern are expected to make another bid. And of course, if Núñez departs, and there are still Saudi suitors, even though the Napoli deal is off, and if Diaz is sold as well, Liverpool will have more funds, and then they are expected to add another attacker. Whether that's Isak remains to be seen. Of course, in an ideal world, they love Alexander Isak, but there's also the opportunity to maybe enter the race for Rodrigo, who's going to clarify his future with Real Madrid in the next few days. And Anthony Gordon is a player that Newcastle have said in the past is not for sale, but Newcastle also appreciate. And 12 months ago, when Newcastle were in a real PSR bind, they made a bid that was provisionally accepted for Anthony Gordon, only to find that Yakuba Minter joined Brighton and Elliot Anderson went to Nottingham Forest. And the combination of those two going allowed Newcastle not to sell Anthony Gordon. But Liverpool were really close at that point to signing Anthony Gordon. So that's going to be really interesting. Do Liverpool go for a wide attacker, a winger, or another number 9? And how can they generate the funds to pull off those kind of deals that are essentially British transfer records? Do they need both Núñez and Diaz to go, or have they stocked up enough and feel PSR compliant that they can continue to be aggressive in the market? So Liverpool are really busy. Then if we move on to Victor Gyokeres, Arsenal are still looking to get that one over the line and are confident, we should say. They're really only quibbling at the time of recording over a very small number, a fee in the region of 2.5 million euros in the add-ons, and also the payment structure for the fixed fee. So there's a broad agreement in place, 63.5 million euros plus 10 million in bonuses, of which only 2.5 million in terms of how easy they are to reach, and also the general payment terms are in dispute. And both Arsenal and the Gyokeres side feel very clearly now that this one is going to get done imminently, whether today, tomorrow, this week. And actually, I was told that a Gyokeres medical was provisionally booked for last weekend, but they couldn't quite rush it through and get it over the line. But the feeling is, with sporting sources, with Arsenal sources, and those close to the player side, that this deal is going to get done. And suggestions that Manchester United might try and hijack the deal are wide of the mark. Of course, Ruben Amorim appreciates the player, but they haven't made a bid and they don't plan to make a bid. Then if we talk about Manchester United, the next priority will be to find a new number 9. My expectation is that Brian Mbeumo will be announced today. By the time some people are watching this, he may already be holding up that Manchester United shirt. So now Manchester United are looking to add another striker. There remains appreciation for Benjamin Sesko, who Manchester United, along with Chelsea and Arsenal, made a pitch to a year ago. And Sesko obviously decided to stay at Leipzig. And I think the feeling is from Manchester United, because the Arsenal move for Sesko hasn't come off, and a lot of other clubs like Liverpool have found their striker, maybe as this window drags on, the price for Sesko will drop. And Manchester United feel that there may be more preferable payment terms and overall value in that deal towards late July or early August. Nicholas Jackson is another option. Chelsea is certainly not driving Jackson out the door, but there is a possibility that he leaves at the right price. And in addition, Ollie Watkins is another player who Manchester United have spoken about internally too. So there will in likelihood be another number 9. What that means for Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee remains to be seen. Certainly with Zirkzee, my expectation is he's more likely to stay. With Rasmus Højlund, it will all be on the player, because Manchester United would be open to an exit. But from Zirkzee's point of view, he's come back to pre-season hoping to try and fight for his place. So Manchester United now are going to be hoping, with Cunha and Mbeumo through the door, the 2 10s that Ruben Amorim wanted, they can find a number 9. There may be a defensive reinforcement, a fullback. Pervis Estupiñán at Brighton is one name that has been regularly mentioned and we've discussed on talkSPORT. But it looks like Milan are really the club pushing there at the moment. And then in addition, a goalkeeper and a young one, likely Sané Lamens, as we exclusively revealed on talkSPORT. Antwerp is one possibility. And although we hear a lot of talk about Emi Martinez, it's very much Emi Martinez courting Manchester United at the moment anyway, rather than the other way around. And Manchester United now can move a little bit, or they feel they can, because Marcus Rashford is about to be formalised as a new Barcelona player on a loan, but there is a buy option there, and that gets 100% of his reduced wage off the books. Antony is still pushing to go to Betis. Jadon Sancho in Juventus is one to watch. And Alejandro Garnacho is still on Chelsea and Aston Villa's radar. And even Tottenham have discussed him internally too. And that would represent pure profit on the books. So if they can get Garnacho over the line in the next week or two, plus a fee for Sancho, then I would expect Manchester United to be well positioned to try and move for a number 9 between now and maybe even the first game of the Premier League season. And then just last up, a quick word on West Ham United, because now they've sold Mohamed Kudus to Tottenham. I expect West Ham to have a little bit more financial leeway to really get going. And my expectation is that Graham Potter is going to be pushing this window for an attacking midfielder and also a number 6. And the latest player that I've heard on the radar for number 6 is Wilfred Ndidi, who has been discussed by Manchester United and Everton and Real Betis and Juventus and even Saudi. And there's so many clubs in for Ndidi that my feeling is that will resolve itself relatively quickly. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is another option in the 8 role for West Ham United. And then goalkeeper is going to be a big one too. And my expectation is that West Ham are going to approach Leicester for Mads Hermansen, who was a player Leicester didn't want to leave 12 months ago, but they had a valuation of about £35 million. Now the feeling is with West Ham that that number is going to drop because 12 months have passed, but he is contracted until 2028 still. So we'll have to understand whether, because Leicester have gone down, there's a deal to be had more in the 20 to 25 million mark, which is West Ham's expectation, or if Leicester are going to stick to this £30+ million mark. Leicester at the same time are advancing on a veteran goalkeeper in Asmir Begovic, who's going to be available on a free transfer. They've discussed Ilan Melia at Leeds, who might be available because he didn't finish particularly strongly last season in the Championship. So Leeds could be looking for a number 1 goalkeeper as well. So West Ham are going to be busy, but I think goalkeeper, number 6 and number 8 are all active positions that they're working on. And that, of course, also calls into question the future of Edson Alvarez as well. So the window is really hotting up. We're into the new financial year. Lots of clubs are moving, and that is the latest on the window. Stay tuned every single day. We'll bring you the latest from the transfer market. And of course, along with YouTube, there are more details as well on talkSPORT.com. But for now, that's it. From myself, Ben Jacobs, I'll be back with you very soon on the window.